Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
Thereza Bazar is a Canadian-born, Australian-based singer and songwriter. She began her music career in her late teens, achieving early success as a member of the 1970s vocal and dance group Guys and Dolls, alongside future Dollar partner David Van Day. In Dollar, Thereza served as the lead female vocalist, delivering standout performances on songs like I Need Your Love and Give Me Back My Heart. Following Dollar's initial split in 1983, Thereza pursued solo endeavors, releasing her debut album The Big Kiss in 1985. She made a brief foray into Australian television, appearing with her son Sam on the talent show My Kid's a Star in April of 2008. In the 2010s, Thereza shifted to behind-the-scenes work, managing the girl group Goodbye Charlie, guiding the trio through recordings and live performances while drawing on her experience in pop production and artist development. Most recently, Thereza has revived her performing career under the moniker Thereza Bazar's Dollar, partnering with singer Stephen Fox to reinterpret Dollar classics alongside new material. This includes the independent release of the pop single Train That Never Comes in October of 2025. Thereza has had a resurgence of popularity, performing at a number of festivals, having headline shows and chatting to BBC Breakfast and Virgin Radio over the last couple of years. She is also preparing an upcoming autobiography chronicling her career from Guys and Dolls through Dollar and beyond. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Thereza Bazar. Where are you in the world and how are you doing?
Hello, my darling. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm in sunny Sydney, Australia, and I'm fine, thank you very much. I lost my voice a few weeks ago, which is extremely scary. But almost back now. Not quite, but almost. A bit of a long haul. But I'm very well, thank you.
Now, it's been a multi-decade journey, so let's do the hybrid story or version. At what age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this creative world, and how did that journey progress?
Oh, that's a lovely question to start with. So from the age of about 5 or 6, I wanted to dance. Well, I started ballet at 2.5, so I think that's about the earliest one could possibly start ballet. And I loved it. I just kind of lost myself, and that feeling never really left me. So I kept dancing, and discovered I started doing like competitions, Stedfords, that sort of thing. And they had one of the sections was song and dance, and I never really thought about singing and dancing, but I loved it. I had this very sort of bright little voice, and I was a very happy chappy kind of child, and I always did very well in those competitions, but still wanted to be a ballet dancer. So that went on to my early teens, and then I really took a long hard look one day, and even though I was technically very good, I just didn't have the right body shape to be a professional classical ballet dancer, just too small. And obviously the body beautiful for a ballet dancer, you have to have the right physique. So I suddenly thought, when I picked myself up and realizing, I thought, well, if I can't dance ballet, I'll sing. And that was probably, I was 13. Well, the very next step was to plead with my dad to buy me a guitar, because I sort of thought, I need to play an instrument and write songs. I kind of knew that was a creative avenue that would be helpful. And so it took a bit of persuading, but he wouldn't buy me a guitar. Because, he was always very protective of me, and I was always very petite. So he went out and bought me a banjo, because the neck of a banjo is much narrower than the neck of a Spanish-style guitar, that's got gut strings, so not metal strings. So he went and bought me a banjo, and of course they've got metal strings, and tuned the last 4 strings to the last 4 strings of the guitar, 4 strings on the banjo. So I'm learning to play the chords, not exactly the chords, but on the 4 strings. And of course my fingers started bleeding and everything, but I was not put off. And I learned my 4 chords in about 2 hours, and I wrote my song about half an hour later, my first song. That was it.
Then you moved into becoming professional. How did you meet David, and how did Dollar come to be?
So I went along for an audition for boys and girls who could sing and dance, again, singing and dancing. And it was for a pop group. And I had no knowledge of pop music, really. I loved the Carpenters, and my older sister listened to the Beatles a lot. So I kind of obviously was aware of pop, but never listened to pop, didn't own a record. All my records were classical music, actually. And I went along for this audition. As I said, this is how smart I was, for Guys and Dolls, 3 girls, 3 boys. One of the boys was David Van Day. But my audition for this pop group, which was mainstream top 40 pop, was my song was Somewhere from West Side Story. And my speech was Puck from Shakespeare. I mean, you can tell where my head was at. It's just so funny. And I think they just thought, she's so naive. She'll be great. She just won't know what's going on. Well, little did they know, I learned fast. I had to play catch up. But and David was one of the boys. So that's how we met.
And how did the journey of the band, how was that for you?
Well, I suppose the best bit at the beginning of Dollar was because we got thrown out of Guys and Dolls. We actually got kicked out. A sort of like pretend meeting with everybody, and then no one else turned up, just us two. And I guess David had been making lots of waves. He wanted to be a solo artist. And I was going to stay in the group and earn some money because we were girlfriend and boyfriend. And I got thrown out too. But I'd been complaining, about the musical direction. I was very into pop by then. Spent all my time listening to production and different artists and what was happening. And I kind of thought, we don't start really motoring, we're going to get left behind and be very stale and old-fashioned. Yeah, I was right. But so he got thrown out, and then David tried to get a solo deal. I actually was offered a solo deal that I immediately turned down because I thought, no, you've got this all wrong. It's not me, it's him. He's the one that wants to be, in the limelight. I don't want to be a solo artist. And then he couldn't get a deal, and we met up with these 2 guys who were forming a management company and said, how do you feel about us presenting you as a duo? Because there was no girl-boy duo in the UK. And they did that, and it was a new record label being set up with, funded by shipping company, ex-EMI, A&R head who became the MD, and they signed us. And we had a hit with our first record, Shooting Star, which was just extraordinary. And on we go. It was crazy, just so lucky.
Now, what part of the experience or journey from that point surprised you that you did not realize would be part of it? In the sense like, oh yes, we want to do this duo thing, we want to be in the industry. But then things started moving, as you said, it went crazy, and you were like, oh, I didn't realize that this little part of the aspect or part of the thing would be part of the journey.
I didn't realize that people, especially journalists, could be so vicious and so judgmental and kind of be opinionated about how an image could influence the listening or the assessment of a piece of music. And I was just astonished that, we were called cheesy and fluffy and light. And I kept sort of thinking, I was quite a shy person those days, and was very much like, so I suppose, the person who was the professional, young, glossy, groomed woman was nothing like me really at home. I was kind of always like quite introspective and sort of like self-deprecating, and would go, why would I do that? And why wasn't that good enough? I was always very hard on myself. But I was very fierce about being attacked in public, verbally, I suppose. And I kept thinking, it's so wrong, because listen to the music. Obviously, it's a hit. It's a top 10 hit. Or the general public are marching with their feet and the pounds in their pocket. They want this. But you're being so rude and disparaging because of, you don't like our image? Well, yeah, but I didn't have the strength in those days to speak up. I wished I had done, actually. It's quite a regret for me.
Do you think that social media, or the invent of social media, has improved things with regards to those perceptions in a positive or negative way? What are your observations and perceptions of that?
Oh, that's such a good question. Oh, it's a complicated one too. I think it's both. I think it's improved things and it's made things much trickier. I think people are just as fierce if they want to be. Well, whereas before it was a professional in their capacity who had power to make comments that people would read about at arm's length. Now, anybody, whoever they are, can have an opinion and stick it out there on whatever platform they choose, and everyone can read it, which I find quite extraordinary. So you got to grow an even thicker skin to say, well, that's their opinion. They're entitled to that, and that's fine. But on the other hand, it's really good as an artist that if you have the inner courage to absolutely be authentic and yourself, then hopefully for people who really do care about music will just see through the person, that they will understand and appreciate the music that they're making. And I do believe that that's helpful. And people just laugh at other people's comments, but people are just so judgmental. They still are. It's still about image. I mean, if I don't look good on the Facebook or something, I get all these, oh, you look really tired, dear. You should go on a holiday. I'm going, well, flipping heck. I've just done all of this stuff and you don't know what's going on in my world. If I actually have to take a photo and then I have to filter it. Sorry, guys, if I'm disappointing you. But, to make yourself look better. And then everyone goes, oh, you look so lovely, darling. Everything's good. And it's still the same. Nothing changed in 50 years. And you're laughing because it's true. Right?
Yeah, it's just, I find it ridiculous. And pre to Celeb Savant, I was not on social media. If you look up Barrett Edelstein, there's no image, no picture, no post. I needed to create a Barrett Edelstein one in order to have a Celeb Savant one. And now when I do post for Celeb Savant, I only post work stuff, my podcasts, the events, those things. I don't do anything personal. And then when I do stuff, I sometimes get comments. Like the other day, I was interviewing an actor on the red carpet at a movie premiere. And I'm very, I'm sure you can tell, very excitable, very passionate.
Yep, love that. Very good.
Yeah. And then I got comments on the one post, went a bit viral, because they were like, oh, he's as high as a kite. And I was like, actually, I'm just passionate.
And no enthusiasm, but it is wonderful. But it's just, why can people always spin it in a negative way? Because maybe they are just negative, nasty people. What can we do? You can't control what's beyond your control. I understand that. But if we care enough about what we're doing, I guess you just rise above it. You smile, don't respond, and just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, that's all we can do.
You've been in the industry for a number of years. What was the inspiration to create new music and put yourself back out there?
Well, it all started with COVID. I did a one-woman show for some mad reason that was a lot of work in 2019. Something was like, it was kind of this sort of like little itch, just tickling away, not really on the surface. And I sort of thought, I don't know. And then, I know what it was. A friend of mine said, watch this documentary. It was actually Carrie Fisher, Star Wars, Carrie Fisher. Yes. She did a one-woman show and she was on stage and she just had a screen behind her. And she was actually just talking about her marriage, her parents, her life, what it was like being Princess Leia and all of this stuff. And it was so entertaining and such fun. And I suddenly thought, I'd love to do something like that, really find out more about the fans who were so lovely. I'd like to have an up close and personal kind of interactive thing where we could talk and have a chat, like a Q&A, and maybe talk about music and things that they would have always wanted to ask me but never got the chance. So that's how it started. So this one woman show, which was literally one night in London, was partly music, like going through the decades, and then a Q&A. And I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, that sowed the seed. Then COVID came. And someone asked me to write a book. And I said, I can't do that. That's hard enough finishing a song. Let alone write a book. It's much too much. And then they said, I'll start writing it with you. We'll chat. And I said, I could do that and come up with ideas. And, of course, that made me start going back, even looking at old photos when I was dancing as a kid, and Guys and Dolls, and watching a BBC special. And I was kind of going, golly, we're quite good, weren't we? And how professional we were. And I was looking at me going, I was so happy. I mean, I was like, I was 18 years old and I was just grinning. So that's how it all started. I suddenly thought, that's because it's music. Music makes me happy. And then one thing led to another. And I suddenly thought, I've got unfinished business. I want to do a live show, do something live and reach out with people who are my peers. Saying one of the really good things about being 70, because I had my 70th birthday this year, and it's quite a big thing for me. And I suddenly thought, it's just a number, and it is, but it still kind of surprises me occasionally. And the funny thing is, almost all the fans, they're all 10, 12, 15 years younger than me. Because they might go, well, you had a poster of you on my wall, and everyone's younger than me. It's just hysterical. So I kind of think that gives me the right to kind of do what I want to do and talk about things how I want to. And it really was a fantastic experience. So from there led to new music, and I'm writing a lot now just because I feel more powerful now. I think experiences and the knocks of life as you go, the failures make us stronger, definitely. And and I think it's great now because I don't have to have a chart hit, do I? Because there aren't any chart. Well, there are some charts, but they don't count. But it's just really making music that you want to make, which I think is liberating.
How do you create a song?
Yeah, all depends. I like walking a lot. So I'm not the kind of person that sits down and goes, this is a 2-hour writing session now. But things sort of pop into my head. If the melody and the hook, the melody and the lyric comes at the same time, that's a good sign. You kind of go, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then if it gets into my head and I've got it rumbling around for a few days, that's even better. And then sometimes I'll very nervously open up GarageBand and start mucking about and kind of going, but it's always a riff because I kind of produce as I go. I kind of hear the production as well. And now, of course, with different sort of musical tools, tips and tricks, I can have an idea, but then I'm handing it over to the co-writer. So what do you think about that? Have a go. Kind of not sure about that bit, but I love that bit. And here's the riff that goes with that. And then now they're sending me this stuff back, and I'm kind of like, my jaw drops. I kind of go, it sounds great, because I'll give them, think about David Guetta meets ABBA, or just different reference points along with the melodies, and kind of, I think creating images with words for music is very helpful. Always done that. And most of the producers I've worked with, Trevor Horn, Chris Neal, Arif Mardin, all have done the same thing. We go like, imagine pink puffer clouds. This is giving me back my heart. Pink puffer clouds with pistachio dripping ice cream. Think about that and make a sound.
Wow, that's amazing. I like that. When you said David Guetta meets ABBA, could you imagine if ABBA was still releasing music and ABBA and David Guetta did a track together? That would be interesting.
It would be great. But I'm all about fusions, because
yes,
so many of the artists today, the young ones, Sabrina, whatever her name is, and all the other ones, and there's so many of the girls, that their voices are quite dissimilar, but the style of music is very samey, I believe. Sorry if I'm offending anyone. But the reference point is so from 70s and 80s, they just are, or 90s, they're always looking back to take things, and because it's something that they're in their different generation, and that really sort of mesmerizes them, and they love it, which I think is fantastic. No creative, well, you could disagree, but every creative takes inspiration from other creations.
Yeah.
Of course we do. That's what humans do, don't they? I mean, we just do.
I've been following the charts. I remember when I was little, I would listen to the radio. I've got all the encyclopedias of the charts, the British charts, the Billboard charts. I love the charts, and I've always been following it. You said earlier that the charts aren't as relevant anymore. Why do you think that, and what do you mean?
Well, I guess it's how people buy their music, listen to their music, and of course, Spotify or whatever they're listening to, how they listen to, how they stream the music, whatever. But I think it's a good thing, because and so many artists are using TikTok, and there's a science to it. Like there was a science with manipulating the charts back in my day, with targeting particular record shops that report back to create the BBC charts and promoting records. there's a similar way of doing it now, but using social media. So you can make an impact if you want to really do it that way for young people. I think you can, but it's a global market, isn't it? It's one market. I think it's better. It's harder for people to break in, but it's better. But it was equally hard in my day. But the good thing was you didn't know what your competition was. So you just kind of felt a little bit stronger and didn't compare yourself so much because you just went on and did your own thing. But if you think about how ruthless the Radio 1 chart was, I mean, and if you didn't get on the charts, on the chart listing, the playlist, you had to work so hard with all the other radio stations, to all the regionals, to try and get enough regional airplay to compare to one play on Radio 1. Then Capital came, and Capital became quite powerful, but it was so controlling. Whereas now it's not like that, and I think that's a good thing.
I love me a CD. I still budget for my CDs every month. I love the journey of the choice, the unpacking, the booklet. I'm not sure if you are aware, but there's a massive uptick for physical around the world. 2 years ago in the UK, 5.9 million vinyl sold, the biggest since 1990. Last year in the UK, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on. And based on these exchanges, which there needs to be a high number every day, they monitor it for tax purposes. And because of the upsurge of CDs again, CDs have now been put back in the basket. And the research is showing it's the teenagers, the younger kids diving into this world. What are your observations of that specific topic?
Well, I'm not knowledgeable like you, but my singing partner, Stephen Fox, said to me, cassettes are making a big comeback. And I said, you've got to be joking. And he said, yeah. And I went, fantastic. I mean, I can remember getting my biro and spending hours twiddling around with the inner, with the cogs of the cassette, when like the tape was slightly twisted. Yes. I'm going, if I go far enough back, I can untwist it. And then I have to spool it all the other way, And then, do you remember the double cassette players? Bootlegging. That's like how bootlegging started, and everyone was getting double and then borrowing a cassette from a friend, buying blank cassette, sticking it in and copying it across. Hysterical. I think there's nothing better than having something tactile. That was like a proper record album with the notes on the back, and then we would make pictures on the inner sleeve, not just a white dust cover, pictures of that, and then you'd have booklets, and then you'd have colored vinyl. I mean, picture labels. So good.
It was also the quality of the sound of the physical is much better than on the digital. I feel like the quality of sound is like a hug of energy and music, where I find the digital's like flat and sort of muted.
Yeah, I completely get that. And that I became very friendly with someone who was a mastering engineer. And we used to like sit over a glass of wine and he would explain, how, and he was an absolute perfectionist. It was called the master room. He was so in demand, you could never even get in there to master your records. But he had this approach. He actually mastered Jackie's Midnight Runners, Come On Eileen, one of the loudest records of the day, because he had a certain technique of getting enough power, when he was mastering. Because it's another whole thing, which, of course, I'm not technical like that, but I so appreciate the stages to finally get something, onto a piece of a lacquer and then onto plastic, onto a record, which is stunning. But the one thing I do love, maybe because I get distracted quite easily, is I love listening to something with earpods or headphones, because it takes you, sort of transports you. You kind of feel it. The music is kind of like a halo around your head. Mm-hmm. I do love that too. So for some particular kinds of music, I find that exquisite. I do.
What's coming up over the next period of time? So I know it's all very secretive in your guys' world. So what can you tell us of what's going to be happening?
No, I'm not secretive. Sharing, caring person. New album. So I'm very, very, very proud to announce. I sort of mentioned a few things on my socials, but we will have a new album out and some live shows. It won't be a big tour, but there will be definitely some live shows, 2 or 3, to promote the new album, and it will be a smattering over the decades, whatever. But it's a new album, all new music, and that's so exciting. I'm thrilled about that. And the whole process is, apart from losing my voice, which I mentioned, which is just hasn't happened to me in such a long time, and you sort of don't realize how precious something is until you lose it. It's one of my most precious assets. And I didn't realize how much I sing. And of course, I couldn't sing. Terrifying. Just as literally, I was terrified. So I've tried to behave myself and eat more carefully and try and be very measured for a little while to get myself back on track. So yeah, new album, some more live shows in the UK. And making plans. Will be a big year, consolidation, and the new music towards the end of it. And then who knows after that? I mean, I've got no idea. I'm just excited, really. I'm excited like you. Always unless something's really dragging me down, always very positive, very enthusiastic. If it's to do with music. Some other things, not quite so much.
I love this game. I know if I had to ask you this question today, tomorrow, or the next day, I know your answer will be different every time because there are millions of them. I understand that and I recognize that. Like I said, I'm not saying favorite. If once we finish this conversation, you want to do top of mind, push play to 5 other artists, who would those artists be?
Erasure, without a doubt. Debbie Harry, because she, for me, is just the real deal in so many ways. I would say Paul Simon or Simon and Garfunkel, if I could get them back together. That would be a dream. And, okay, I like, this is a weird one, I love Blossom Dearie. Very jazzy, but love Blossom Dearie. Does a fantastic approach to singing. And I suppose ABBA. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yes.
My heroes. My heroes. Yeah, we were on a plane once and they were up the front and actually sent them a message on a serviette saying, "We're an English pop duo and we have had lots of hits, and would you be interested in maybe producing us?" Didn't hear that, but I'm so excited.
You have to put things out there. What's the worst thing that can happen? No, they can say no.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So that was just my first, but I'll probably go, how did I say that? No, there are all sorts of other people like Simon Kleine from Kleine Fisher. His voice is just a diabolical. And Nick Kershaw. Yes. So, and then we could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Exactly. And Karen Carpenter, the Carpenters, would be backup vocals. I mean, and the Bee Gees. I mean, there we go. Here we go. I could be here for hours.
So the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
Keep listening to music. May it brighten your day, your world, and it can make you be a nicer person. That would be a wonderful thing.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.